be in your presence on another holy Sabbath day of rest. We are thankful that you have carried us all safely through yet another week. Lord, we are thankful for the spiritual rest that you will afford us. We are thankful for the blessings that we are about to receive on your Sabbath day. As your people congregate in your courts and bask in the glory of your presence, we ask that our minds will be lifted heavenward, that we will remove from us the stain of every earthly dross, that we will purify ourselves and reflect the lovely image of Jesus in our daily lives, in our walk, in our talk, in our attitudes, in all our activities and our decisions. We look forward to the day when you put in your second appearing. And as we are now about to discuss matters as it concerns our health, we ask that we will listen attentively, that our understanding will be opened, that we may behold marvelous things out of these truths that you have given to your friend, to your people. So, Lord, be with us now, I pray. Grant us the presence of your Holy Spirit. For we ask it all in Jesus' name with thanksgiving. Amen. All right. Good night, folks, and happy Sabbath, one and all, everywhere. Tonight's topic is parasites. They are eating us alive. And everybody knows, have an idea about what a parasite is. And I'm sure no one is conjuring any wonderful, lovely looking images. But just what are parasites? It is estimated that just about 85% of Americans have parasites. I don't think we have any values for the numbers or the prevalence in the Caribbean. But if America is any standard to go by, and because of its close proximity, we can pretty much rationalize this at least or around about the same numbers or even higher here in the Caribbean, which is the third world. So you would expect that sanitation practices are not as advanced as in America. So it is at least around the same number or even higher. It is estimated that 55 million people worldwide are affected with intestinal parasites. And there are several types of parasites or types of worms primarily, because there are different types of parasites, but the one that lives in us primarily, especially in our intestines, are the type called worms, right? And there are several types of them. You have tapeworm, hookworm, pinworm, whipworm, roundworm, and flukes. Nasty stuff. We don't want any of these things living inside of us and off of us. So what exactly is a parasite? It's an organism that lives in another organism called a host and often harms it. So that means that that parasite exists at the expense of the health of the other, which is why we don't want them, because they compromise our health. They are harmful. How do we get them? We get them from eating undercooked meats such as fish, crabs, and mollusks, especially seafood, especially those cultures that tend to eat that seafood raw, a lot of sushi. Almost everybody who eat raw seafood is gonna have parasites just by nature of the risk of that eating practice, undercooked food. Sushi, they don't even pretend to cook it, it's just raw. Very likely infected with parasites. Undercooked meats, chicken, pork, beef, goat, cattle, and sheep. We don't have to worry about none of those things, because we know that God's remnant, people who believe in the health message, right, and practice health reform, we don't eat these things, right? But even as vegans, we have to still worry, because these parasites can also infect plant-based types of foods, right? We see here that plants such as the watercress, raw vegetables that have been contaminated by human feces or animal feces and walking barefoot. But even for us who practice the medical reform, the health reform work, we know that we don't eat our vegetables raw. We cook our vegetables, so that reduces our risks, right? But walking outside barefoot, and when you have that lettuce, there's a chance that you could be eating contaminated foods. Some foods are contaminated by food service workers who practice poor hygiene or who work in unsanitary facility. My mother is very peculiar about this one. Every time she eats out, she has to see it displayed, your your food handling certificate. I don't remember the proper name, but a certificate that certifies you as practicing the best practices by the regional health authority in the various places for those who operate food establishments. If you have cats in the home, cats, dogs, hamsters, rabbits, birds, snakes, right? All of those things put you at risk. Foreign travel, insects. There are some from these parasites that are able to go airborne um, by being involved in sexual intercourse. You could be exposed to parasites, right? So the question is, are you exposed to parasite eggs? How do you know? Now, most infections come from um, the anal oral route, that is from the anus to the mouth, usually by somebody who has parasites and they go use the washroom. They don't wash their hands properly afterwards or don't wash their hands properly afterwards. They touch their face, they shake your hand, they touch some food that you will eat, you know. They could do something as simple as you go to a restaurant and that person who hasn't washed their hands, they sit down and use a salt shaker on the restaurant's table, and then they have right away contaminated that surface. Every time we go out in public and touch things that other people touch, we are putting ourselves at risk. Because there are a lot of unsanitary people who are out there, right? So even though you didn't contaminate your hand by your own self, somebody else who is unsanitary can cause contamination to come upon you by various vectors and means. You are the next person to now sit at that table. You use your salt shaker. Then maybe after you finish eating, you say the food was wonderful and you lick your hands, or you put your hand to your face and you wipe your mouth, or you scratch your eye, or you scratch your face. You are now the new host to that parasite. There are by kissing somebody who is infected or who maybe scratch their mouth corner with unsanitary hands, and then you kiss that person, holding hands, sharing utensils, sexual contact. Now the parasite eggs are very hardy, right? Even if it happened 2 days ago, that person contaminated their hands or your hands became contaminated, the parasite eggs can live under the human fingernails for up to 2 whole months. 2 whole months. That is very important to clean under your nails and wash your hands very thoroughly when you bathe, right? It is very typical that if one family member is host to a parasite, the entire family is infected. And that's why when you deworm or de-parasite for yourself, you have to do it for everybody inside the house. Now, as I was saying now, the parasitic eggs or the parasite eggs are very hardy. They can exist without a host and be in the environment, on their nails, on some contaminated surface for up to 2 weeks. Now, let's look at an example of microscopic pinworms. Eggs, they can become airborne and they can travel anywhere and they can live for up to 2 days outside of a host, and you can actually inhale the contaminated air where these eggs of the pinworm will actually hatch inside of your body, right? And then you now become a host, an infected host. So you see that the eggs are really, really hardy. And you don't need to be unsanitary your own self. You just need to be breathing contaminated air. Now, what are some of the symptoms that show that you have been infected by a parasite? Now, the symptoms may vary depending on the type of intestinal parasite that is currently infecting you. Runny nose, headache, back pain, constipation, indigestion, sudden mood changes, mood swings that don't have any rhyme or reason, fatigue, itchy ears, nose, and itchy anus, especially, and that's like a real scratching around the anal area there. It can cause sexual dysfunction in men. It can cause you to have dark circles on their eyes. It can cause hyperactivity, especially in children, and also the grinding of the teeth and the teeth clenching in children, especially at nighttime. can cause them to have bedwetting, allergies. It can change up the menstrual cycle in women. It can cause brain fog, that unclear thinking, like you can't focus, can slow your reflexes, can cause gas and bloating, burning sensation in the stomach, loss of appetite, and drooling, that excessive drooling while sleeping. Numb hands, pain in the navel area, that's down by the belly, can cause your face to turn yellowish, can cause various sleep disorders. And because the parasite is feeding off your blood and sucking out your nutrients, it can cause nutrient deficiency, because it can also block the proper absorption of nutrients, or the worms themselves can be absorbing up all of the good nutrients from out of your food before your body has a chance to absorb it. Also, because they are feeding on your blood, right? They can cause anemia, right? They're literally sucking out your blood, causing you to go low on your blood. They can affect the immune system. They can cause immune system disorders, right? So it can cause immune system problems. Now, let's look at the different types of parasites, the various categories, or like categories, but types. The very common types that we find around the place. A very common one is called pinworm or threadworm or seatworm. Why I call it seatworm? Because it's usually they like to congregate at night, especially around the anus. So if at nighttime you just have this inexplicable scratching of the bottom, like the anus itself, it could very well be because you're carrying pinworm, threadworm, seatworm parasites. The female pinworm releases an itchy mucus when laying her eggs, right? And they like to lay the eggs around the anal, space right there. And when she lays that eggs, it will cause that urge to scratch the affected anus or the affected area. And you have to remember that the anus is very close to the vaginal opening, so it can also infect the vagina, right? If the ear is scratched, the eggs will be transferred onto the parents' hands. And we have all seen babies scratching, their butts very vigorously. And you know how babies are, their hands are all over their face, into their mouth, into their eyes, and they reinfect themselves, self-infection. Touch up things in the house and infect things inside the house and pass it on to the other family members. Right? So that is the life cycle right there, itchy butt, and it makes its way around. Now, symptoms of pinworms can include itching, irritation of the and a warning here for those ladies who like to wear those mini skirts and those short skirts, right? They're, they are potential carriers and infectors of the public spaces, because they basically are naked and they're sitting around the place, seat worm. There's a caution there. Okay. Pinworms, symptoms of pinworms includes itching and irritation of the anus or the vagina, digestive disorders, insomnia, irritation, or nervousness. Now, the worms, they can come out of the anal opening to lay eggs at night, right? And the eggs can pass to others through the ear by contact with infected food, contaminated bedding and clothing. And the eggs, they're not affected by disinfectants, right? It passes from person to persons, and they can also be passed by direct contact or through the sharing of food and toys and many other things. Pinworms cause rectal itching, especially at nighttime. They can also be contracted by vegetables that are eaten raw or poorly cooked, which is contaminated by infected water. Contamination can also come from the pets as well. So careful for those of us who keep pets inside the home. Eggs can be transferred from from a person and an infected person's anus to the bed sheets, the carpet, the hands and towels, underwear and clothes, bathroom utensils such as toothbrush and combs, handling of food by an infected person directly onto other people's hands, furniture, the kitchen and the bathroom, countertop and worktop surfaces, kitchen utensils and toys. Another type of worm is the hookworm. Seem they're smiling at everyone. It's a horrible smile, right? Now the hookworm can be infected directly onto the skin by you like walking outside and you have like a dog who has hookworms, who's infected with hookworms, it infects his feces and his feces um goes on the ground and then the hookworm now infects the ground. You don't even need to step in the feces. You can even just the ground does be infected by the dog droppings, right? That's what the red inflamed lesions of a hookworm infection look like on the skin of the feet of somebody who is infected. Hookworms, they can be up to half an inch long. The worm's head contains several tooth-like structures with which it clings to the bowel of its host. Hookworms can also infect dogs and cats, and it feeds on its host's blood. Symptoms include abdominal pain, loss of appetite, cravings to eat soil. Today, I actually was surprised. I met somebody who eats soil. They actually took out a bag with dirt out of their handbag and they actually ate the dirt right in front of me. I was a bit surprised. I've never seen that. I saw that for the first time today, and she was asking me why she has the urge to eat dirt and she's been doing it from she was a child. I said, you're probably nutrient deficient. I actually didn't remember that it could be a sign that she has been infected with parasites, which will drive a nutrient deficiency, which will drive a need to eat dirt. I don't remember the name of the condition. Pick something. I don't remember with that desire to eat dirt. Right? Can cause iron and protein deficiency, dry skin and hair, skin irritations. It can cause delayed puberty, can cause mental dullness, and in acute cases where the infestation is very severe, very acute, it can cause cardiac failure and death. Persons are infected primarily by walking in contaminated soil, and then the hookworm will latch on to the foot bottom and bore through the skin of the feet and get into the person, get into the body, or by eating with unwashed hands. Now, hookworm feeds on a patient's blood. Oh, no, I said it already, right. Human infestation of hookworm begin with the larvae penetrating the skin, usually burrowing through the feet, into the feet of a person, or by eating with unwashed hands entering into the bloodstream. I think I've gone through that slide already. All right, the larvae then migrates throughout the body, and it likes to migrate particularly towards the small intestine and to burrow right through the walls of the intestine and go right onto the inside of the intestine. Another type of worm, common worm, is the whipworm. It's called a whipworm because you see that very thin whip-like looking tail. It looks almost like a bullwhip, right? Whipworm. That's what they look like. I think that's on a piece of meat. Children contracted primarily by playing in infected soil or eating contaminated vegetables. Whipworm disease or trichuriasis is a parasitic roundworm infecting the large intestine. Worldwide, infections usually occur in tropical and subtropical areas and in areas with poor sanitation. So Jamaica meets the tropical type of environment. Their length can be 1 to 2 inches long, and it affects several millions of people worldwide. So it's a very common infection. Female worms in the sea shed between 3,000 and 20,000 eggs per day. Wow, that's a lot. And the lifespan of an adult is about 1 year. So try and imagine how much eggs a mature female worm can lay. They can live up to 365 days, and they can be putting out between 3,000 and 20,000 eggs per day. Now, the causes of whipworm, how do you contract it? All right, so we already saw that it can be caused by contact with contaminated soil or eating contaminated food, especially vegetables. Infection with whipworm may not be apparent unless noticed when passing the feces, and you look, and lo and behold, in the droppings, you see a worm, or on occasion, crawling up into the throat and trying to exit through the mouth or the nose. I can't imagine how scary that might be. And it's a type of roundworm. See there? See a little boy there? The worm is trying to migrate through his nose. Right? I can't imagine having a cough and a coughing up, and when I look, is a worm that are coughing out or the worm coming out through my nose, right? That will be traumatizing. So let's look at roundworms. That's a roundworm within the small intestine there. You can see it if it migrates into the eyelid or into the eye. It can try to also exit through the nose or the mouth while asleep. And there's a bunch of roundworms that were removed from a person's intestines, right? And you can see it's a very big worm, very muscular looking worm. Wow, that's the stuff of nightmares. And children, when they're severely infected, can cause them to have these very large swollen bellies. We have all seen the pictures of children in Africa. Sometimes it's not malnourishment that make them look like that. It can be severe infestation, roundworm infestation, severe roundworm infestation. On rare occasions, the infestation may be so much that it can cause an obstruction in the intestines. The amount of worms actually block the intestines, right? The adult roundworm instinctively opens the human body through open air areas. Therefore, they may try to crawl into you through the airway passages, causing gagging. They may invade the heart, the pancreas, the peritoneal cavity, the appendix, the liver. So this worm likes to be all over. This worm can also cause blockages in the lymphatic system, block up lymphatic vessels, and cause a build up of lymphatic fluid in the various limbs, especially legs, causing the condition that we call elephantitis. The roundworm is usually pink or white in color. They can be up to 15 inches long. That is over a foot long. And they can lay up to 200,000 eggs per day, right? And it affects 1,000 million worldwide. And 1,000 million is what? 1 billion people worldwide. They actually look like an earthworm. Can you imagine something the size of an earthworm inside of you? They frequently live inside the gut and they eat the food that a person has eaten. So when you eat your food and break it down and do all the work and the food is ready to be absorbed by the body, the roundworm does take up that. You not get nothing, right? So some of the symptoms can be pain in the upper abdominal region, can cause asthma, eye pain, insomnia, and rashes. They can cause blockages in the intestinal tract, loss of appetite, appendicitis, abscesses in the liver, and the list goes on. Most common in children is that they bore through the intestinal wall and settle into the other organs in the children's body. And they tend to want to come out at nighttime because of the warmth of the bed. They will gravitate to try and coming out. And you saw it coming out of the boy's mouth and nose. So it is important to check the ear when they are asleep, to go and check on your children just to see if any worms are trying to exit their bodies at nighttime. Another type of worm is the tapeworm. And I think all of us are familiar with the tapeworm. It's a very infamous, I should say, worm. You can see it's long bodied there, and you can see it is made up out of sections, and it is normally long and flat, hence for the name tapeworm. That's what the infection looks like actually inside of a human being. It can affect different areas of the body. You can see a tapeworm there being taken out of a man's foot. This is how they would extract the worm in Africa. If it has migrated to somewhere like the feet, they actually use a stick, pick out a little end of the worm and slowly roll the worm on the stick and carefully drag it out. I cannot imagine somebody dragging out a worm that size and that length out of my foot. That must be traumatizing. All right, this is what they look like in some intestines right there. Right, this is a tapeworm that was removed from a person, and you can see there in the preservation jar that's what the head of the tapeworm looks like. You can see those sharp barbs hanging off its head that it uses to attach to the intestines or wherever they're infected. The tapeworm is a flat segmented worm that lives in the intestines of some animals. It can be anywhere between 35 and 100 feet long. That's crazy, right? The female can lay 1,000,000 eggs a day, right? That is one with 6 zeros in front of it. 1,000,000 eggs a day has many segments containing 50,000 eggs within each of its 3,000 to 4,000 segments, right? And there are usually no symptoms with that tapeworm, right? They are primarily detected in stool samples, but an infected person may have dizziness, vomiting, hunger, loss of appetite, or weight loss. But typically, they don't have any symptoms. Tapeworms are usually contracted by eating poorly cooked meat, beef and pork and fish and things like that. So praise the Lord. Us as medical missionaries don't need to worry about this particular worm because they don't come to you on no plant material. They come to you in meat, right? So eating undercooked meat from infested animals, and included among them are the clean meats, the beef and the fish. But pork is one meat that tapeworm really love. And here are the three common examples of the worms in beef, pork, and fish. Now, the unfortunate thing about the tapeworm larvae is that sometimes they don't stay confined to the intestines. Sometimes they will migrate out of the intestines and move to other parts of the body and cause damage to the liver, the eyes, the heart, the brain. And all of these infections can be very, extremely life-threatening. Tapeworm in the brain. If it migrates to the brain, it can cause seizures, accumulation of fluid in the brain because of the squeezing of the brain tissue, and it can cause changes in thinking, right? Starts to affect your mind. But you see those big old cysts, through this dissected brain with all of these places that the worm has infected. The larvae, particularly of tapeworm, has infected. It can also cause meningitis. Another type of worm that likes infect the human body are flukes. They are a type of flatworm parasites that have two ventral suckers, allowing them to attach themselves to the host. Humans usually become infected by eating undercooked or raw seafood, aka sushi, right? Infected vegetables such as watercress, water chestnuts. You can become infected by drinking contaminated water, swimming in a contaminated pool, or wading in water, that's like river water, or creek, or any standing body of water that is infected. You can get yourself a flu. They are microscopic in size and they can lay up to 100,000 eggs per day. So this is the difference between this particular parasite and all the others. All the others you could observe with the naked eye. The fluke is microscopic. You have to see it under a microscope. These flatworms can migrate to all organs of the body, right? And you'll notice that their small size, their microscopic size, allows them to squeeze between the various structures of the intestines and break out of the intestines and get into other parts of the body, like the lungs, the heart, the intestine, the brain, the bladder, the pancreas, the liver, blood vessels. The fluke can move all over. Nasty little worm. They also have blood flukes. They like to live in the bloodstream of the host. They aim to get into a blood vessel, and they can cause blood clots in their host. They can cause a stroke. They can cause high blood pressure. They can cause a heart attack because they are blocking up those blood vessels, especially if they're trapped into a capillary or some other very small space and block off blood to that area. If it is in the heart, you get a heart attack. If it's in the brain, you'll get a stroke, right? You can also have fish flukes. These can cause skin problems, liver and intestinal pressure, gas, and other digestive problems. So you need to avoid eating undercooked fish. All of you would like to argue about Jesus' example, even though we have told you that the fish that Jesus ate is not the fish today. Make sure you cook it properly if you're going to consume it so you don't get fish flukes. They have intestinal flukes, and they can cause excess mucus and sinus trouble, right? They can cause food to move too slow or too fast throughout the digestive tract as it goes around its circuit. right? Leading to intestinal problems. They are also sometimes associated with ditoxin poisoning. If they make their way to other organs besides the intestines, they can pave the path to cancer, right? So, flukes, very dangerous, can cause you to even develop cancer. You have liver flukes. They can be present in any liver disorder, causing jaundice, liver swelling, or inflammation. Seeing that the liver typically is the detoxifying organ of the body. If it is affected, it can cause a general toxic condition to exist within the human body. All right, it can cause pain in the area of the liver, and it is often associated with alcohol abuse and hepatitis, and that you can see, from cause to effect, because the alcoholic will it is the liver of the alcoholic that helps to break down that powerful neurotoxin alcohol, right? So if the liver is already being impacted by alcohol, it makes it easier for a parasite to come and infect it. All right. You have lung flukes, can cause a dry or persistent cough that just won't go away, shortness of breath, impaired breathing, anemia, even oxygen starvation through the entire blood system, because the lungs that we depend on for gaseous exchange to oxygenate the blood is being compromised by a lung fluke. And remember now, any area of the body that is being affected by any illness will become a very attractive area for other diseases to be drawn onto that weakened area. So weakened lung infected by a lung flu is going to be very attractive to other illnesses like flu, pneumonia, and fungal infections. You also have lymph flukes, and they have been maybe implicated in any lymphatic disorder, including breast cancer, lymphoma, leukemia, right? It comes from eating raw fish and shellfish, and drinking or eating infected water vegetation such as watercress and water chestnuts can be picked up by drinking or swimming in infected water. When we're talking about cancer, we said that, in the spirit of prophecy, Ellen White said that cancers can be caused by germs. These are a species of germs, these microscopic parasites, right? Leading to various types of cancers, as we just discussed. Pancreatic flus are associated with alcoholism, autism, sugar imbalances such as diabetes and hypoglycemia, candida or yeast infection of the liver, pancreatic disorders in general. These parasites come from sheep that were weakened by chemicals on the grass that they eat. So the sheep became weakened by, the pesticides that they use to keep the pastures under control that the sheep feed in. They eat these pesticides, become weakened, contract these parasites, then people come kill the sheep, eat the sheep meat, not cooking it properly, and it is passed on to them. Fish and parasites. This is another class of parasites called nematodes. See all that lovely fish infected with nematodes, and you can see the infection there, the lesions that are in the meat of that fish, right? Here's a very particular parasite that eats the tongue of the fish, and then the parasite becomes the tongue of the fish, right? Nematodes are metazoan worms that could you hold on 1 second, please, family? Hang on 1 second for me, please. Sorry about that, friends. So nematodes are metazoan worms, which parasitize, I can't pronounce that properly, it's tongue-tied me, the skin, right? That means they infect the skin as parasites, the muscles, the viscera, of fish. Nematodes commonly cause cysts in fish tissue, as can be seen in that picture right there, right? You have another type called isopods sea lice. They are a type of crustaceans. They adhere to fish gills, skin, and fins, and may also live in the mouth and gill cavities of the fish. And in this case, it actually replaces the tongue of the fish. It eats off the fish tongue and clamps onto the root and sucks out the blood from right there and just lives right there. But actually plays a function. It replaces the function of the tongue. It's a very peculiar type of situation. All right. What about worms in pigs? You have large white worms, ascarids, red stomach worms, whipworms, threadworms. And you have the scientific names right there beside them, right? You have the large white worm, and you see one here exiting through the anus of a pig right here. You can see it infected the pork meat as these little white looking spots where they're actually cysts. Chickens can also carry parasites, right? Not only the pig and the unclean seafoods, but also even in the clean foods. Chicken. As you can see here, chickens weren't meant to be like this in nature, right? This is how the modern chicken farm looks like that supplies the supermarket and the various fast food restaurants and stuff. As you can see, the chickens are cooped up right next to each other, literally jammed up together like sardine in a tin. Very alien to the natural domain that God created them to live in. So you're going to create unhealthy and disease conditions in these chickens, weaken their immune system, making them more susceptible to parasites, right? Here we can see a chicken feather, and if you look at the base of it, you see a clump of eggs, mites and eggs along the feather shaft, lice eggs at the base of the feather shaft, right? They infect the chicken. The chicken picks up the parasite eggs directly by ingesting contaminated food, water, or litter, or by eating infected snails, earthworms, and other insects, which are intermediate hosts. They act as vectors, disease-carrying vectors for the chicken, which can carry the eggs. And the same type of worms, large worm, small worm, cecal worms, right? So they infest the chicken, right? And then you eat the chicken and you can get the infection. Here's some worm medicine that farmers sometimes give to their chicken, wormwood and stuff like that to help deal with the parasites. How about parasites in the eggs? And definitely parasites can penetrate the eggshell and live within the egg, right? So they bore the egg and you can see various lesions on the outside of the egg. Sometimes I remember sometimes seeing eggs that look like these in the supermarket, and you see them have some kind of imperfections looking like this on the eggshell. Be very careful. That means that they have become infected with a parasite, right? Now, what do cats and dogs have in common? They can be carriers of worms, hookworm, roundworm, whipworm, and tapeworms. That's why it is recommended that as medical missionaries and health reformers, we do not keep pets, especially inside the house, right? Parasites love cats too, most definitely. Tapeworm, roundworm, hookworm, whipworm, um, uh, gar Garcardia. I won't even try to pronounce the second one, right? Dogs also seem to have their ticks, and they have mange also. Mange is actually a parasitic infection on the skin of the dogs, right? So the question I want to ask now, how do we get rid of parasites? That's the question everybody wants to hear answered, right? Again, when it comes to all diseases, we deal with the faucet method. We go to work intelligently to ascertain the cause of the disease, change unhealthful practices, and assist Mother Nature in her work of healing. So the first step in turning off the faucet, the cause is the diet. We need to eliminate all fresh food and its byproducts from our diet, right? If ever there's a time that was safe for us to indulge in fresh foods, including fish, that time is long past. It is not now so It's no longer safe for us to consume any form of flesh foods or their byproducts, including milk, dairy, eggs, and all those kind of things. Okay? We need to eliminate all of them from our diet. We need to eliminate all pets from the home. Don't keep no cat in your house, or worse, no dog. Dogs and cats and all other animals were meant to be kept outside of the home. Okay? And even when we keep them outside of the home, it's best not to allow them to roam the whole yard. You can have a pen where they stay inside of, right? So that if they become contaminated with any parasites, they don't pass it on to the rest of the household by contaminating the soil with their feces. So you confine them to a section of your property and fence them in. Don't leave them free to just roam up and down everywhere outside. Because you could be causing a parasitic infection in your family. Avoid contaminated raw foods, cook vegetables completely. Avoid watercress and the other I forgot the name of the other one that come from polluted rivers and water bodies that contain pinworm and tapeworm. And all vegetables should be washed thoroughly before eating them, especially the raw ones, lettuce, right? Wash them thoroughly, clean them before we eat them. Wash fruits and vegetables well. We can use lemon juice and we can use salt, right? Eliminate all sugar and white refined carbohydrates as these feed parasites and encourage them to breed. That high sugar diet. Raw apples expel worms. So you need to be making sure you have the raw organic apple in your diet, right? To eliminate tapeworms, you eat raw pineapple 3 days in a row, and that will take care of tapeworm in the intestines, right? We can also use the panga nut to eliminate tapeworms and roundworms. Pawpaw also will help to eliminate tapeworms, but when you eat the pawpaw, you need to eat it with the seeds also. Grind up the seeds and you eat them also to eliminate tapeworm. We need to eat the foods that are very high in sulfur compounds. So that is your garlic, that is your cruciferous vegetables. The cruciferous family of vegetables is like your cabbage, your broccoli, your kale, your cauliflower, your Brussels sprouts. Another set of foods very high in sulfuric compounds, like the alliums, your onion and your scallion. Carrots also are high in the sulfates. So they help to remove pinworms, roundworms, and other parasitic infections. You eat a lot of these food groups. You need to also consume a lot of water. Eat foods that are very high in fiber, such as your properly cooked vegetables. Your raw vegetable is your lettuce, your grains, your nuts, your legumes, right? Also need to be eating pumpkin seed and figs. They expel intestinal worms, right? They have compounds in there that drive out the worms. If you're eating a quarter cup of pumpkin seeds per day, maybe three figs. So the pawpaw seeds, we can actually use the pawpaw seeds because they have very strong antiparasitic properties that can help you to eliminate intestinal worms. So that is the papaya seeds themselves. You can grind them down into a powder, right? Or mix it with honey, and you take them in to help expel the worms. Now, how do you use the papaya seeds and honey formula? You crush a handful of papaya seeds, you mix them with a tablespoon of honey or soy yogurt, and you consume this mixture on an empty stomach for about a week, followed by a laxative to expel the parasites. So after you take the papaya seeds, you're gonna take something like senna herb, or you're gonna use the super colon cleanse, or if you really want to do a good job of it, you can use the castor oil and lemon juice mix. Caution, if you suspect that you are pregnant, avoid using pawpaw seeds to prevent the risk of fetal loss. Pawpaw seeds can encourage spontaneous abortion of a child. Also have the barberry, right? Barberry contains an alkaloid called berberine or berry berberine, which has demonstrated antimicrobial and anti-parasitic effects in some studies. Caution, it may interact with certain medications, so it's best to consult with a qualified practitioner before you try to use this particular herb. Or humble coconuts. Yes, consuming coconut water has a special ability to combat parasites which cause diarrhea. It is very effective in replacing lost electrolytes if this happens. So if you're having, diarrhea brought on by parasites, coconut water will be a very effective electrolyte replacement. Beetroot. Consuming coconut water daily can bring about abundant health. This particular nut has a special ability to combat parasites which cause diarrhea. You can easily include coconut in your diet by preparing your meals in coconut oil. Carrots. Carrots are rich in fiber and may help in eliminating intestinal worms. Eating carrots regularly in the morning not only helps in removing these worms, but they also prevent future infestation. And if you remember that carrots are also very high in sulfur compounds that cause it to be antimicrobial and antiparasitic. Sunflower seeds are also known for its richness in vitamin E, which is a very well-known immune booster, right? Boost up your immunity, and that will help buttress your natural defenses against parasites, your natural resistance against parasites. There are some supplements that will be necessary to help the work of nature along in dealing with these conditions. And a diet that is rich in vitamin A and the minerals, selenium and zinc may improve your immune system. That's the body's natural defense against parasitic infection. What are some of the vegan sources of zinc? That's your hemp seeds, your cashew, your Tahiti sauce or tahini sauce, right? Your soybeans, your pumpkin seeds, your tofu, your lentils, your flaxseed, your sesame seeds, your peanuts, right? But we don't usually recommend peanuts because of, its high allergic propensity, it's a way of stimulating allergies in certain individuals. And there's a particular fungus that lives on all peanuts. So don't really encourage the use of peanuts too much. But you have your Brazil nuts, you can eat your black beans, your quinoa, and your chickpeas. Vegan sources of selenium, Brazil nuts, can eat 6 to 8 nuts to get up to 444 micrograms of selenium, right? Your brown rice, your lentils cooked, your baked beans, your whole wheat bread, your cashews, rich in selenium. All right, so let's talk about unplugging the kitchen sink using the faucet method. That is your lifestyle, right? You need to practice cleanliness, right? You know the old adage, it's not a Bible verse, but it's an important adage that cleanliness is next to godliness, right? You need to wash your hands thoroughly and frequently and scrub under your fingernails, especially before eating and after going to the toilet and after changing your baby diapers. No, you make sure you wash those hands thoroughly. Have very good hygienic practices, right? Wash all bed linen, bed clothes, pajamas, your cuddly toys, right? Normal washing temperature is fine, but you need to make sure that these items are well rinsed. You need to vacuum the home thoroughly, especially the bedrooms. Vacuuming needs to be regular, thoroughly done, and throughout the 6-week period that you will be doing the cleanse. You need to damp those surfaces in the kitchen and the bathroom. Washing the cloth often in hot water And you do this regularly throughout the cleansing period as you work to reverse any parasitic infections. Now, do not shake things that may have eggs on them, such as clothing, pajamas, bed linen, because it may cause the eggs to become airborne, and then other people inhale it, or you inhale it and reinfect yourself. Do not eat in the bedroom. There is a risk of swallowing eggs that have been shaken off bedclothes. Make sure everybody's fingernails are cut and short, right? As medical missionaries, all of us, we need to have well-groomed fingernails, short and clean. Need to refrain from nail biting and finger sucking. These may not be easy if there are small children in the home, but it's possible. You have to just train them from early. Just don't make them develop the habit from early. You know, cover their hands from their babies. You know, discourage by any means necessary the putting of hands into the mouth by children. At night, wear close-fitting underwear. Change your underwear every morning. Have a bath and shower regularly. Thoroughly cleaning your body, paying particular attention to your anal and vaginal areas. Do not share towels or face funnels, right? Toothbrushes should be kept in a closed cupboard and rinsed well before use. Now, let's go to mopping it all up. What are the herbs that we can use? The lovely turmeric, God's golden dust. It's known for its anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial properties, which helps in removing all kinds of intestinal worms. Turmeric can be used in drinks and consumed daily. Onions, 2 raw cut onions, soak for 12 hours in 1 pint of water. Strain and squeeze out the juice. Drink up to 3 times a day that onion water. Garlic, 3 pegs of garlic, or 4 to 6 ounces of carrot juice. You're going to combine and take every 2 hours for 1 day. So remember, both garlic and carrots are high in those, sulfuric compounds, sulfur containing compounds, right? Highly anti-parasitic. So you combine them, the 3 pegs in the carrot juice, drink it every 2 hours for 1 day. We can make a parasite tea consisting of black walnut, tansy, wormwood, garlic, thyme, and cloves, right? The garlic you're gonna crush, and these other herbs, you're gonna boil your water, and you're going to steep for 40 minutes. You're going to boil the water, put in the herbs, and steep for 40 minutes, or better yet, overnight, and drink as water your next day. You can use the black walnut herb directly, and that is as a supplement. Use it as directed by the manufacturer of the supplement, but you don't take it for more than 6 weeks at a time. Very effective in dealing with the removal of worms. Tansy, right? As I explained before, you're going to use it to make the herbal tea. Cloves. Cloves have antiparasitic and antiseptic properties, which can help to get rid of stomach worms along with their eggs. Cloves can be consumed in the form of juice by boiling in water, simmering for 5 minutes, and then straining the mixture. This mixture should be taken quite a few times during the week for best results. Now, there is a caution. If you are taking blood thinners such as warfarin or aspirin, cloves may interfere with the body's ability to cut blood and may increase bleeding risks. So you can't be on any blood thinning medication and be drinking the cloves and also the garlic. This caution should also be applied to garlic if you're on blood thinners. You have to be very careful. You may also add a teaspoon of cloves to a cup of hot water and let it steep for 15 to 20 minutes, right? And you're going to use going forward 3 to 7 cloves twice daily to maintain the balance until the condition is dealt with. Infusion of thyme in tea can help you deal with tapeworms. You also have wormwood. Infusion of leaves and flower makes a very powerful vermifuge, right? You also have diatomaceous earth or diatomaceous clay. This is also known as Diatomite works like a natural detoxifying agent within the body. It kills parasites and viruses that contribute to illness, also while helping to clean the blood. Um, and as usual, after you have taken these herbs, you need to be taking a laxative, right? To help, sweep out the dead worm matter and the eggs and stuff like that. And you're gonna make you can make a senna tea, you steep it and drink the tea afterwards, right? You normally would steep it in 8 ounces of boiling water for 40 minutes and then just drink it as a nightcap. You have the castor oil and lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of castor oil, 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. Very potent laxative. It would be recommended that you stay home when you use this particular one and stay close by the bathroom. But once it starts to work, it starts to work. Castor oil is a known stimulant laxative. It works by increasing the movement of the intestines, helping the stool to come out. So it increases peristalsis, which is that wave of contraction along the entire length of the intestines, right? Lemon juice, a cleansing way to encourage bowel movement is to try taking a glass of water mixed with the juice or half a lemon before bed. And when you wake up, you may want to drink with a straw, as you could find your teeth becoming sensitive after a regular course of lemon water. That's because lemon water is so acidic. It can literally melt the enamel of your teeth and cause you to develop sensitive teeth. So drink it with a straw and avoid the lemon water going over your teeth. Now, you need to plan a parasite killing meal. How do you do that? Parasite killing meals after you have completed your course of the parasite cleanse with the herbs and the lifestyle changes and the dietary changes that we just discussed, right? You continue on a diet in foods to prevent and eliminate parasites, of course. So let's together plan what that would look like. We'll be eating foods that are rich in zinc, foods rich in selenium. So the fruits you want to be eating are the berries, the apples, the pineapples, the pomegranate, the papaya, and the figs. The vegetables, the cabbage, the carrots, the beets, the turmeric. The grains, the brown rice, the cereals, the oats, the quinoa. Protein, the lentils, the chickpeas, the black beans, the azuki beans, the tofu, the various nuts and seeds, Brazilian nuts, coconut, cashew, almond, pumpkin seeds, hemp seed, sunflower seeds. And the other type of herbs you can use, anise, curly mint, garlic, onion, cloves. Don't forget the thyme and the scallion. For breakfast, you can have a fruit salad of apples and pineapple. Then you have oats quinoa porridge with pumpkin and sunflower seeds ground up in it and coconut milk and honey. And you end with Brazil nuts. For lunch, you can have coconut water and jelly, then steamed cabbage and carrots with black bean and carrot stew with quinoa on the side and a handful of cashew afterwards, right? So now you can try, and in the chat, as I close, I want to ask you to put your, some of you who are brave enough, try and design a parasite cleansing meal and list it down there in the chat and we can go over it after we have closed the presentation. Now, we have come to the end. And know that you have been educated on this matter. Go ye and sin no more, lest a worse thing come unto thee. I hope the presentation has been helpful and that our children have been educated thereby. Let us close with a word of prayer. Father in heaven, we are thankful for the little time that we have spent. We're thankful that you thought of everything ahead of time. You have even thought of the foods that by their properties will be able to expel parasites that may infect us by exposure, by our lifestyle or diet or habits, or even just passively living in a sin-filled world by just breathing in contaminated air. We are thankful for these means that you have provided unto us, your children. May we use them wisely and effectively, not only honor ourselves, but our loved ones and our families, and to help those in our communities as we go out practicing the medical missionary work by becoming the living embodiment of Jesus by healing, teaching, and finally winning, converting, and baptizing, so as many as we come in contact to may be saved. So, Lord, help us not only to be hearers, but doers of the work. Help us, oh God, to put our hand to the plow, to become co-laborers with you in the finishing work of the gospel, even the gospel medical missionary work. To this end, we ask you for many blessings and many things more, for we ask it all in Jesus' name.